My name is Artem, and I want to speak about some things about the future, about this transition that's coming to automation. There are some mechanisms that I see that I want to share. It's kind of ideas of a taxi driver or something, but you might find it useful to understand some things about this transition. Um, Looking at this transition, we're thinking, what's our chances to have a good outcome? Whether we have, what's the PDUM? What's the uh, UBI? Whether they will give us some UBI or whether Terminators will come and kill everybody. The population will decrease and the elites conspiracy and so on. Well, what we know is basically two things which are almost certain. It's the reduction of work. We don't know when, but it will go down all the way, to very probably to zero necessary work, necessary for payment. And the second factor is creative ability of wealth. All this automation, it will create um, a lot of productivity and grow the economy. So these two factors, reduction of work and creation of wealth, the question is who will pay us, and a lot of people they answer, well, they will pay you, the UBI, universal basic or big income, whatever you want, and we are asking, well, who will give us this money? That's the question. So that's why I want to see who are the players, and how these decisions will most probably will happen, and what's the most probable outcome based on the assumption. So it's my personal view, but you might find it interesting. So I divide this society into functional groups, the groups of influence. So the tops, the majority, and the crux. The tops basically are the ones who don't work, who don't need to work for survival. There are relatively few of those, but now it's millions of people still, and it's not like they're super rich. I believe a few millions will give you enough money not to work for the rest of your life. However, some people they choose to work, so I think they would be the tops in my simplified scheme. So the majority is everybody who sell their work to survive and to pay their bills. And the cracks, they are not crackheads. I don't mean any disrespect. These are people who fall through cracks either within a society or internationally. Some countries, almost wholly, they crack through societies of humanity, and the survival there is pretty bad. So all these three groups, they distribute, the pie between themselves. And when the pie grows, that new wealth, you know, everybody have a claim on part of this new growth. So certainly tops, they usually have more ability to take more of this new wealth. Why don't they take it all? So when the pie grows exponentially a lot, you know then they might be enough of this new pie for everybody, for the tops and for majority and for the crux. But it still doesn't answer the question whether the tops will give it to majority, you know and that's certainly not the right uh, type of question to understand this. um, so we will see. You know what, this guy probably should be a little lower. Okay, so first we'll see um, all our, oh no, I'm closing it with my head. So we have these three groups. In reality, they interconnected. They actually um, live in the same, interconnected space. So there are people, servants, who directly serve tops, every day. They clean their floors, they give their food, they take their orders, and they calculate their money, and they protect the tops. That's one of the important function for the tops as well, their safety, their security. And there is this place where they touch every day. So the tops, they know what's going on with the majority of people. Maybe not correctly, maybe not everything, but speaking with the cleaning lady, they can understand some of the struggles. They cannot hide from it completely. Some people do, but most people, they still participate in this. And certainly we all interact with people who are in the crux, and trying to help, because what we have, some four forces that will play between these three groups, is the greed and generosity. These are two things that we have, all of us, the tops and the crux and the majority. And so certainly the tops, they would represent the greed, because they want to share, but they want to save a lot too. Majority also, they are not eager to give everything to help the crux, even though we have enough information to know who suffers and where. And we get some information, and the tops get some information, and we help the crux, and we are asking to get our lifestyle better from the tops. And generosity plays a major role in all of this. So also between the tops and the majority, there are two things. The tops, they need a labor. They need, and always needed, majority to work and to create all this wealth. And the second one is the tops, they are using people from the majority to protect themselves, sometimes from the majority as well. But one of the fears of the societal wide, for the tops, is the revolt. Historically, it was true. When the tops didn't take enough, they didn't share enough with majority, they sometimes had a revolt, and some regime change, like Soviet Revolution or Chinese. So all these four forces, greed, which is good, everybody is greedy and trying to get some resources for themselves, and at the same time we want to share generosity, and then we need to work for now. And there is a possibility of revolt, and that's why majority has probably, maybe not a fair share, but some, there is some fairness in that. So now we are coming to this revolution, and we are saying that if the pie grows a little bit, then there is a little bit to distribute, and there might be more attention. But if the pie grows exponentially, big time, x100, then there will be, even if the proportion of the distribution will be different, there will be a lot of wealth for the majority, and for crux as well. So there is only one problem here, is that there is a disconnect between the tops and the majority. And why there is the disconnect is basically for two reasons. It's technological. It's the robots and the information and the AI technologies. So basically, we don't need labor. We will not need labor in the future, and that gives tops everything that they need, without asking the majority to provide that. So the robots will take care of the work, and they will be the ones who will protect the tops from the majority. So there will be less possibility, or maybe no possibility, of revolt at all. Even now there is not much, but in some countries, there is something. At least, when the tops have to meet regular people majority every day, there is some possibility of of some revolt, of some action against them. And when there will be a thick layer of robots protecting the tops, then it will become impossible. And you know certainly there are some possibilities of hacking the robots, and maybe the robots will do the job of the revolt. But if we remove that, eventually, you know uh, opportunity uh, to use the robots, then the tops will be well protected against the revolt. So they don't need the majority and the crux. And the second one is that they are not gonna get information, because in the last 10 years, we have this situation with the informational bubbles. So if the tops don't want to know about how majority and crux live, they will have the ability, they will have the opportunity never to hear about how majority and crux live. So first, they can live in the informational bubble in their phone or in their computer, and second, they will not meet with the people from the majority. So it brings us to this, you know, this space between the tops and the majority, and potentially the tops can just keep everything, and they don't need to share, because if all the majority will die, the tops probably will still be okay. At least they will have all the goods and services that they need, and they will have the safety um, from the robots. There are some other factors why tops will want to live among humanity, just because the tops are not that many people, and it's just ridiculous to think that 1,000 people can live, uh, intermarry, and it's probably boring. They want to communicate with more people than 1,000 eventually. Anyways, but that's a possibility that this disconnect made by robots and the informational technology might create a risk. Now we'll go to consumption and we'll see what will be left for us. So every graph has three bars. What it used to be maybe 20-30 years ago, what it is now, the price of the food and clothes, for example, and what we can expect in the future. Why we can expect a lower price in the future? Well, because the robots will do it, and the robots will be cheaper than humans. And then whoever will process it, whoever will transport it, it will be all robots, so it will be cheaper, And, I put the price equally is because a lot of people, they are saying that it's harder to live than before. But I checked the data, and, even anecdotal, um, it's the different consumption that changed the availability of the consumption. So for food, clothes, and electronics, the prices almost didn't grow. They grew less than inflation and way less than salary. Well, not for food, but for clothes and for electronics, it is. Like the TVs, they become way cheaper than they used to be, compared to the salary. Then fun, it will be, less expensive as well. And when I say fun, it's even some travel including, and entertainment in general. I mean, it's not expensive now, some travel, it might be expensive, but it's on the same level as it used to be, but it will be cheaper. So it's good for us, we will have this. And then for health and education, it was not very expensive, and now it is. So I didn't put cost of housing also in this category, which is become much more expensive, but it will be reduced, and we'll talk about it later. So it will be good for us as well. And then there is a expensive consumption, which was expensive. It is expensive, but some articles will be even more expensive for us. Why? Because we will have less money, but more consumption. So basically, with the robots, and with the phone, with the phones, we will have much more stuff with less money. So, for example, the robot, it can do a lot of stuff. It can do a lot of um, um, renovation at home. It can cook, from the very basic products. We don't need to buy, some packaged goods. We can buy raw ingredients, and the robot can prepare from that. Even bread, or water, like filtering water. So everything will be prepared, and it will cost us less, and the quality will be better. And health and education, oh yeah, I didn't say, it will be lower because we will have all these gadgets that will monitor our health all the time. But we will probably have, um, there will be some procedures, medical, which will be uh, out of availability for majority, such as life extension. There might be different reasons for uh, having it exclusive, but certainly during the transition, the first people who will get the access to life extension will be tops. And I'm not sure if all the life extension procedures will be affordable for majority. But everyday health, just checkup, what we eat, um, our biological science, blood information, and all other stuff. It will be done through the gadgets, and it's good. It will be more available to us. So these graphs, they show that even though we will have less than tops, our life will be better, you know, because the consumption will be more available, and it will be better quality because of the technology as well. So we have these two trends. On one side, all this wealth will increase, and on the other side, we have the divide between the tops and the majority. you know so what will happen? Well, my answer is we will have minimal better life. And why I'm saying that, I think I missed some historical analogy. So basically, why our lifestyle stagnated in the end of 20th century and beginning of 21st century. Our productivity stagnated as well, but the pie was still growing, and the wealthy, the tops, got bigger part of it. So my explanation, and maybe I need another slide for that. My explanation is that, so the majority, they get, uh, the majority get as much as they need, but not what they want. And that's the way the tops distribute the wealth. So basically, at the beginning of 20th century, people really suffered. Majority of people suffered economically, even though productivity was increasing. Just because the tops didn't see why would they share. They were kind of experimenting with being wealthy. you know and then, Marxist theory, it showed that, well, yeah, you can do that, but we will not just wait. We will fight for our rights. And uh, a revolution in Soviet Union happened, and then it influenced the Western countries to be on the better side of majority. Not to uh, not to get the revolts from the majority. So they invested more money in the quality of work and in the pay. And then, along with the increased productivity in these years, well, at least between 50 and 60s, there was a very high growth rates in the West. but also before the 60s there was improvements um, in the standard of living for the majority, and part of the reason is because the tops distributed more wealth. They got more wealth, the pie was growing faster after the war, and also they were distributing more because they wanted um, to avoid the revolt of Soviet Union. And then uh, Soviet Union kind of got bogged down after the 60s, and in the 90s it collapsed. And here we go. We have almost no increase in our uh, wealth, for the majority since then. And there are a lot of people who complain about it, even though we didn't really decrease the standard of living, but you know, the productivity was still there. It was slower, but the pie was still growing, and the majority didn't get their fair share or any probably extra share because when the pie grows slowly, the tops they have a better instruments to influence institutions, politics, economy, and they get bigger part of the pie, and they don't need to share more. They distribute something to the cracks, helping poor countries and helping poor people in their societies, because there is still now a connection between all these layers. But they worry less about the revolt, you know, as long as they keep the majority on the firm level. So that is the reason why I think we will have a better life, just because of all these gadgets, but minimally better life for the majority. And the major part of the betterness of the life is not because we will be richer, but because we will have a lot of time, which is good. I mean, not for everybody, but for most people, eventually we will find how to be happier with, having this last 8 hours of the day for us. So we will have much more gadgets because they will be cheap, and we will have enough food and clothes, and we will probably have safety. There is no reason to think that we will not have it reasonably by the government institutions, and we will have some health. You know, not like the top procedures probably or life extension, but everyday gadgets. They might be more important for health and reduction in smoking, and better increase in everyday you know running and stuff like this, taking care of of our own health and education as well. However, education, you know it will be general, because um, now we have professional education, and basically our general education, it's supposed to help to get to the professional education. But if we don't need professional education, then we will only be left with general education, and certainly will have some parts of humanity who will be worse off because of that, because of um, they will you know you will have to sell why you need the education, the general one, if you can just survive. And I'm sure that some free loving people, they would argue that you don't want to force us to get educated if we don't want to, or we don't want to educate our kids. Why do you want to force us? So unfortunately that, but at least the access to education will be much cheaper, just because of the gadgets and the artificial intelligence. And it will be fun, certainly, especially with the time. So that's my prediction, that this is the most probable scenario, that with this divide, the tops, they don't have to distribute a lot, and they don't need to give us a lot to improve our consumption. Our consumption will be improved because of the lower prices and because of the personal robots. which are not cheap, but they will still be not too expensive eventually, you know. But just giving one family a personal robot, it will improve the standard of life for the family big time. So, you know, there is still a question whether, you know, the tops will, you know, not do something stupid, you know. But for now, the tops, they came from our society, and uh, they were uh, related to the rest of us. And, you know, I doubt that they will completely uh, decide to have you know, nothing in common with the rest. It's just, you know, they are still humans and they want to participate in human society. That's, I think it's quite basic, you know. Probably some of the people, they want to go away from society and never see it again, but majority will still depend on society's existence, you know. Not depend physically, because physically they will be fine, you know, just with their robots, but psychologically they want to be part of the society, and I don't see why that will change, you know. People, person living alone among robots, I don't think that it will work well. Maybe eventually, but I cannot see it, you know, just thinking about who we are, and, you know, who the tops are. So that's why my conclusion is minimal, better life. Will be better off after transition. Will enjoy life more because we will have more time. So it will depend on us, certainly, but the life will be better. So these are the mechanisms that will participate in the outcomes, you know, of this transition. Thank you.